Ladies and gentlemen, the Billy Bob Shakespeare Company proudly presents Hamlet, played by Hercules!
Hamlet. Act 1. Prince Hamlet of Denmark is the son of the recently deceased King Hamlet and nephew of King Claudius, his father's brother and successor. Claudius hastily married King Hamlet's widow Gertrude, Hamlet's mother, and took the throne for himself. Denmark has a long-standing feud with neighbouring Norway, in which King Hamlet slew King Fortinbras of Norway in a battle some years ago. Although Denmark defeated Norway and the Norwegian throne fell to King Fortinbras's infirm brother, Denmark fears that an invasion led by the dead Norwegian king's son, Prince Fortinbras, is imminent. On a cold night on the ramparts of Elsinore, the Danish royal castle, the sentries Bernardo and Marcellus discuss a ghost resembling the late King Hamlet, which they have recently seen, and bring Prince Hamlet's friend Horatio as a witness. After the ghost reappears again, the three vow to tell Prince Hamlet what they have witnessed. The court gathers the next day, and King Claudius and Queen Gertrude discuss affairs of state with their elderly advisor, Polonius. Claudius grants permission for Polonius' son, Laertes, to return to school in France, and he sends envoys to inform the King of Norway about Fortinbras. Claudius also questions Hamlet regarding his continuing to grieve for his father, and forbids him to return to his University of Wittenberg. After the court exits, Hamlet despairs of his father's death and his mother's hasty remarriage.
Oh, that this too sullied flesh would melt, thaw and resolve itself into a dew, or that the everlasting had not fixed his cannon against self-slaughter. Oh God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. Fear, 'tis an unweeded garden that grows to seed. Things rank and gross in nature possess it merely. That it should come to this, but 2 months dead, nay, not so much, not 2, so excellent a king that was to this, Hyperion to a satyr, so loving to my mother, that he might not beteem the winds of heaven. Visit her face too roughly, heaven and earth, must I remember? Why, she would hang on him, as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on, and yet within a month, let me not think on it, frailty, thy name is woman. A little month or ere those shoes were old, with which she followed my poor father's body, like Niobe, all tears. Why even she, oh God, a beast that wants discourse of reason, would have mourned longer, married with my uncle, my father's brother, but no more like my father than I to Hercules, within a month, ere yet the salt of most unrighteous tears had left the flushing in her gold eyes. She married, O most wicked speed, to post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. It is not, nor it cannot come to good, but break my heart, for I must hold my tongue.
Learning of the ghost from Horatio, Hamlet resolves to see it himself. As Polonius' son Laertes prepares to depart for France, Polonius offers him advice that culminates in the maxim, "To thine own self be true."
Costly thy habit, as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy, for the apparel oft proclaims the man. And they in France of the best rank and station, or of a most select and generous chief in that neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell, my blessing season this in thee.
Polonius's daughter, Ophelia, admits her interest in Hamlet. But Laertes warns her against seeking the prince's attention, and Polonius orders her to reject his advances. That night on the rampart, the ghost appears to Hamlet, tells the prince that he was murdered by Claudius by pouring poison into his ear as he slept, and demands that Hamlet avenge the murder.
Aye, that incestuous, that adulterate beast, with witchcraft of his wit, with traitorous gifts. O wicked wit and gifts that have the power so to seduce one to his shameful lust, the will of my most seeming virtuous queen. If thou hast nature in thee, bear it not. Let not the royal bed of Denmark be a couch for luxury and damned incest. But howsoever thou pursues this act, taint not thy mind, nor let thy soul contrive against thy mother aught. Leave her to heaven, and to those thorns that in her bosom lodge, to prick and sting her. Fare thee well at once, the glowworm shows the matin to be near, and gins to pale his ineffectual fire. Adieu, 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 remember me.
Hamlet agrees, and the ghost vanishes. The prince confides to Horatio and the sentries that from now on he plans to put an antic disposition on, or act as though he has gone mad. Hamlet forces them to swear to keep his plans for revenge secret. However, he remains uncertain of the ghost's reliability.
Rest, rest, perturbed spirit. So, gentlemen, with all my love I do command me to you, and what so poor a man as Hamlet is may do express his love and friending to you. God willing shall not lack. Let us go in together, and still your fingers on your lips, I pray. The time is out of joint, O cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right. Nay, come, let's go together.
Act 2. Ophelia tells her father Polonius that Hamlet arrived at her door the prior night, half undressed and behaving erratically. Polonius states that Hamlet's madness is due to the very ecstasy of love, and resolves to inform Claudius and Gertrude. As he enters to do so, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, two students acquaintances of Hamlet, are leaving after the royal couple have requested that they investigate the cause of Hamlet's mood and behaviour. Polonius then waits while messengers from Norway inform Claudius that the King of Norway has rebuked Prince Fortinbras for attempting to refight his father's battles. The forces that Fortinbras had conscripted to march against Denmark will instead be sent against Poland, though they will pass through Danish territory to get there. Polonius tells Claudius and Gertrude his theory regarding Hamlet's behaviour, and then speaks to Hamlet in a hall of the castle to try to learn more. Hamlet feigns madness and subtly insults Polonius all the while. When Rosencrantz and Guildenstern arrive, Hamlet greets his friends warmly, but quickly discerns that they are there to spy on him for Claudius. Hamlet admits that he is upset at his situation, but refuses to give the true reason, instead remarking, "What a piece of work is a man!"
I have of late, but wherefore I know not, lost all my mirth, foregone all custom of exercises, and indeed it goes so heavily with my disposition that this goodly frame, the earth, seems to me a sterile promontory, this most excellent canopy, the air, look you, this brave overhanging firmament, this majestical roof fretted with golden fire, why, it appeareth nothing to me but a foul and pestilent congregation of vapours. What a piece of work is a man, how noble in reason, how infinite in faculties, in form and moving, how express and admirable in action, how like an angel in apprehension, how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals, and yet to me, what is this quintessence of dust? Man delights not me, nor women neither, though by your smiling you seem to say so.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern tell Hamlet that they have brought along a troupe of actors that they met while travelling to Elsinore. Hamlet, after welcoming the actors and dismissing his friends turned spies, asks them to deliver a soliloquy about the death of King Priam, as witnessed by Queen Hecuba at the climax of the Trojan War. Hamlet then asked the actors to stage The Murder of Gonzago, a play featuring a death in the style of his father's murder. Hamlet intends to study Claudius's reaction to the play and thereby determine the truth of the ghost's story of Claudius's guilt. Act 3. Polonius forces Ophelia to return Hamlet's love letters to the prince, while he and Claudius secretly watch in order to evaluate Hamlet's reaction. Hamlet is walking alone in the hall as the king and Polonius await Ophelia's entrance. Hamlet muses on thoughts of life versus death.
To be or not to be, that is the question, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep to say, we end. The heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to, 'tis a consummation, devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub, for in that sleep of death what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of disprized love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes? When he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin who would Fardels bear, to grunt and swent under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the well, and makes us rather bear those ills we have, than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied over with the pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great pitch and moment with this regard their currents turn hoary, and lose the name of action. Softly now, the fair Ophelia, nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered.
When Ophelia enters and tries to return Hamlet's things, Hamlet accuses her of immodesty and cries, "Get thee to a nunnery!"
Get thee to a nunnery! Why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners? I am myself indifferent, honest, but yet I could accuse me of such things, that it were better my mother had not borne me. I am very proud, revengeful, ambitious, with more offences at my beck than I have thoughts to put them in. Imagine to give them shape or time to act them in. What should such fellows as I do crawling between earth and heaven? We are errant knaves all. Believe none of us. Go thy ways to a nunnery.
His reaction convinces Claudius that Hamlet is not mad for love. Shortly thereafter, the court assembles to watch the play Hamlet has commissioned. After seeing the player king murdered by his rival pouring poison in his ear, Claudius abruptly rises and runs from the room. For Hamlet, this is proof of his uncle's guilt. Gertrude summons Hamlet to her chamber to demand an explanation. Meanwhile, Claudius talks to himself about the impossibility of repenting, since he still has possession of his ill-gotten goods, his brother's crown and wife. He sinks to his knees. Hamlet, on his way to visit his mother, sneaks up behind him but does not kill him, reasoning that killing Claudius while he is praying will send him straight to heaven while his father's ghost is stuck in purgatory. In the Queen's bedchamber, Hamlet and Gertrude fight bitterly.
Such an act that blurs the grace and blush of modesty, calls virtue hypocrite, takes off the rose from the fair forehead of an innocent love, and sets a blister there, makes marriage vows as false as dice's oaths. Oh, such a deed as from the body of contraction plucks. The very soul and sweet religion makes a rhapsody of words. Heaven's face does glow, and this solidity and compound mass with heated visage as against the doom is thought sick at the act.
Polonius, spying on the conversation from behind a tapestry, calls for help as Gertrude, believing Hamlet wants to kill her, calls out for help herself. Hamlet, believing it is Claudius, stabs wildly, killing Polonius, but he pulls aside the curtain and sees his mistake. In a rage, Hamlet brutally insults his mother for her apparent ignorance of Claudius's villainy. But the ghost enters and reprimands Hamlet for his inaction and harsh words. Unable to see or hear the ghost herself, Gertrude takes Hamlet's conversation with it as further evidence of madness. After begging the Queen to stop sleeping with Claudius, Hamlet leaves, dragging Polonius's corpse away. Act 4. Hamlet jokes with Claudius about where he has hidden Polonius's body, and the king, fearing for his life, sends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to accompany Hamlet to England with a sealed letter to the English king requesting that Hamlet be executed immediately. Unhinged by grief at Polonius's death, Ophelia wanders Elsinore. Laertes arrives back from France, enraged by his father's death and his sister's madness. Claudius convinces Laertes that Hamlet is solely responsible, but a letter soon arrives indicating that Hamlet has returned to Denmark, foiling Claudius's plan. Claudius switches tactics, proposing a fencing match between Laertes and Hamlet to settle their differences. Laertes will be given a poison-tipped foil, and if that fails, Claudius will offer Hamlet poisoned wine as a congratulation. Gertrude interrupts to report that Ophelia has drowned, though it is unclear whether it was suicide or an accident caused by her madness. Act 5. Horatio has received a letter from Hamlet explaining that the prince escaped by negotiating with pirates who attempted to attack his England-bound ship, and the friends reunite off-stage. Two grave diggers discuss Ophelia's apparent suicide while digging her grave. Hamlet arrives with Horatio and banters with one of the grave diggers, who unearths the skull of a jester from Hamlet's childhood, Yorick. Hamlet picks up the skull, saying, "Alas, poor Yorick," as he contemplates mortality.
Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him, Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy. He hath borne me on his back 1,000 times, and now how abhorred in my imagination it is. My gorge rises at it. Here hung those lips that I have kissed I know not how oft, Where be your jibes now, your gambols, your songs, your flashes of merriment, that were wont to set the table on a roar? Not one now to mock your own grinning, quite chop-fallen. Now get you to my lady's chamber and tell her, let her paint an inch thick, to this favour she must come. Make her laugh at that. Prithee, Horatio, tell me one thing. No, faith, not a jot, but to follow him thither with modesty enough and likelihood to lead it, as thus Alexander died, Alexander was buried, Alexander returneth to dust, the dust is earth, of earth we make loam, and why of that loam whereto he was converted? Might they not stop a beer barrel? Imperious Caesar, dead and turned to clay, might stop a hole to keep the wind away, or that earth which kept the world in awe should patch a wall to expel the winter's flaw. But soft a while, here comes the king, the queen, the courtiers.
Ophelia's funeral procession approaches, led by Laertes. Hamlet and Horatio initially hide, but when Hamlet realizes that Ophelia is the one being buried, he reveals himself, proclaiming his love for her. Laertes and Hamlet fight by Ophelia's graveside, but the brawl is broken up. Back at Elsinore, Hamlet explains to Horatio that he had discovered Claudius's letter among Rosencrantz and Guildenstern's belongings and replaced it with a forged copy, indicating that his former friends should be killed instead. A foppish courtier, Osric, interrupts the conversation to deliver the fencing challenge to Hamlet from Laertes. Hamlet, despite Horatio's pleas, accepts it. Hamlet does well at first, leading the match by 2 hits to none, and Gertrude raises a toast to him, using the poisoned glass of wine Claudius had set aside for Hamlet. Claudius tries to stop her, but it is too late. She drinks, and Laertes realizes the plot will be revealed. Laertes slashes Hamlet with his poisoned blade. In the ensuing scuffle, they switch weapons, and Hamlet wounds Laertes with his own poisoned sword. Gertrude collapses and, claiming she has been poisoned, dies. In his dying moments, Laertes reconciles with Hamlet and reveals Claudius's plan. Hamlet rushes at Claudius and kills him. As the poison takes effect, Hamlet, hearing that Fortinbras is marching through the area, names the Norwegian prince as his successor. Horatio, distraught at the thought of being the last survivor and living whilst Hamlet does not, says he will commit suicide by drinking the dregs of Gertrude's poison wine. But Hamlet begs him to live on and tell his story.
Give me the cup, let go, by heaven I'll have it. O God, Horatio, what a wounded name, things standing thus unknown shall live behind me. If thou didst ever hold me in thy heart, absent thee from felicity awhile, and in this harsh world draw thy breath in pain to tell my story.
Hamlet dies in Horatio's arms, proclaiming the rest is silence. Fortinbras, who is ostensibly marching towards Poland with his army, arrives at the palace along with an English ambassador, bringing news of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern's deaths. Horatio promises to recount the full story of what happened, and Fortinbras, seeing the entire Danish royal family dead, takes the crown for himself and orders a military funeral to honor Hamlet. The end.